Well, Brittney Griner was arrested in Russia because she brought a vape pen that I guess had cannabis oil in it. Now, was she arrested for that, or was she arrested because Russia used her as a political pawn?
Because they were about to invade Ukraine.
Yeah, I think we know why.
Yes.
Okay, I imagine that she's, snuck. Yes, it's illegal, but I imagine she snuck this vape pen in many times before. She goes there, she plays, I think, over the summers. I forget what other WNBA season, but like a lot of female basketball players, they go to Russia and they play on these Russian teams. And these oligarchs in Russia prop up these female basketball teams in Russia. It doesn't matter, whatever. So she gets arrested. She's there for months, I think. And what the U.S. and Russia do is a prisoner swap for basically Brittney Griner for the Lord of War. The Lord of War, you've seen Nicolas Cage movie.
Merchant of Death.
The Merchant of the Lord of War was the movie. He's known as the Merchant of Death. And this is a guy who's basically sold weapons around the world, destabilized tons of fucking African countries. Now, I'm not acting like we're fucking honest in this and we're scot-free in this. I imagine we being the United States of America, have also courted this guy and used his specific skill set to help us in certain situations. So I don't know if we're like the best. That being said, we definitely arrested him for some reason, and we have him locked up. So we trade him for Griner, and people are upset. They're like, that doesn't really seem like a fair trade. I think this is the reason why it's a little bit bothersome. They've also put in this other American who was being held there for months. There was a guy who was held them on charges of espionage. It was a ex-Marine. I don't know if you're ever ex, but it's a Paul Whelan, I believe. And so the question everybody's asking is, why are you trying to get Brittney Griner out, who knowingly broke the law, when you should be trying to get this alleged American spy? He just says he's just an American there who was doing his duty for country. Now, I don't know what the rules are with spies when they get caught, what you do with them, I don't know, et cetera. But I think the issue with me is it seems like they made the trade for only Brittney for political points. It seems like it's a little bit of like a virtue signal, if you will.
Trying to get favor with voters.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And, there's a Democratic president. Who are the constituents that he's going to support? He's going to support gay, minority, women. And it's like, oh, I check off 3 boxes. Let me get that person back. Who does he not have to care as much about? White, male, Marine, who would probably be voting conservative anyway. So I think there's a little part of me, and I need to know more about the story, but I don't like the idea that we're going to trade this merchant of death, a guy who's responsible for probably tens of thousands of deaths and like destabilization around the world, which we're also responsible for. I'm not saying we're innocent, but it doesn't exactly feel like a fair trade. And if you're doing it just to get like a PC pat on the back, it feels a little gross, right? Yeah. When that same administration could be letting out all the weed offenders, the nonviolent drug offenders that are in prison right now in the United States. It could be letting every single one of them out right now. And it seems to be perfectly okay with them continuing to be in jail.
In some fairness, I do think they're trying to work on that. I do think. But I agree with you.
But what's to work on? You could just do it. Ain't no work.
Isn't it a states' rights thing?
Yeah, you can't just like flip a switch and just let out everyone.
You could do it federally. You can't do it state-wise, but you could put every single person who has been convicted of a federal crime that has to do with drugs that are nonviolent, at bare minimum, just weed.
Yeah.
You could immediately remove them from federal prison right now. Yes or no, right?
Yes, and he did pass something, but it was a very small thing. It was like a nonviolent, but also like I forgot the.
We talked about it on Idiots.
Yeah,
I forget exactly what it was, but it wasn't exactly it.
Can he do that on his own, or does he need the Senate?
No,
and
he
the
can do
House?
it on his own. He can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
valid.
Like, it just really, it's tough because like if you have a major drug dealer, their cases usually aren't just, I just traffic drugs. So
it's like getting Al Capone for tax evasion. It's like you're really getting him for this other shit, but the only thing you can get him for is a tax evasion.
Yes,
so I feel that.
So it's like if you just do this blanket thing of like, just nonviolent weed shit, it's like, this motherfucker, we know he killed a bunch of people, but we can't charge him on that.
Exactly.
And now you just let all these people out.
Or he called for the murders of it, which is totally understandable as well. I like everything. These things are way more nuanced. Yeah.
I just want to give a little pushback. I think it's a combination of both. I do think it's political. I also do think they caved to the pressure. Like, did any of us know Whelan was locked up in Russia? No. So nobody's tweeting, nobody's commenting, but when Brittney got locked up. Everybody's tweeting. Everybody's saying something.
That's the
he
other thing.
felt
It's
the
like,
pressure.
Every conservative that's upset about it, why weren't you talking about
That's what I'm saying.
him the way that everybody else is talking about Brittney Griner?
Yeah.
Like, if y'all, now granted, Brittney Griner is a more famous person than him, sure, but make him famous. You have platforms, you got blogs, you got Twitter. Like, every politician that's complaining that Brittney was taken out instead of him, I need to look at your tweets and see if you once tweet about that
That's what
motherfucker.
I'm
Show some receipts. Yeah.
Exactly. Or are you using Whelan as a way to score points against the Democrats?
Yeah.
Now you're using this motherfucker who's in jail, this so-called hero. You're using a hero.
Yes.
So that's foul too. But if you were one of those people that have been trying to get him out for years and to know, or I guess he's been locked up for a little while.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
like,
it's like close to 10 years.
he's been there?
I think so.
Oh, I thought
I
that
gotta double check.
it was a 6-year sentence or something. He
Oh,
got. I'm
really?
not sure.
I'll check.
But like, I totally understand your frustration if you've just been clamoring about this nonstop and then to no avail.
But the fact that none of us have heard about him, I don't think too many people were.
My issue wasn't with Paul Whelan as much, because to me it's like, all right, they got a spy, we got a spy, or we're not a spy, but like a criminal.
Yeah.
To me, the issue is we're letting out this guy who's like incredibly dangerous, just based on his history. And if you're gonna just talk about like from a racial standpoint, this guy is responsible for the death of, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of black kids in Africa.
Oh yeah.
And
No, literally what he did, he would arm the child soldiers.
yeah.
Guys, okay, now this is not going to be a politically correct answer, but he was a businessman. People are asking, hey, I want guns. He's not the ones putting the guns in the kids' hands. He's making the deal with the guy who's putting the guns in the kids' hands.
I would step back, because it's what they were doing is arming these militias in an effort to destabilize regions that had resources that they wanted to make easier to extract.
Yeah, but he just cared about the money at the end of the day. That's why he got caught, because he made a deal that sounded like a really good deal with a DEA agent just for the money. He didn't give a fuck who he was selling to.
No, I'm not saying that his interest was hurting them, but he knew that they were being hurt.
And
Yeah,
I
but he's
think
just
he-
a businessman who doesn't care.
I think he owned the
Mc-
shipping companies too.
Yeah, but McDonald's kills or gives people high blood pressure and kills people. They don't give a fuck. They're selling, they're swinging
I
burgers.
do think there's, I think you're drawing a parallel on something. There's like degrees of it, right? Everything has shades. So there's a shade of, hey, we push products sometimes on here that aren't necessarily good for your health. That's different than going to kids and saying, hey, here's guns. If you're not happy, you're not really smart enough to know how to handle anything, but here's guns. Let's go cause some turbulence, and then we'll benefit. And the US does this. So we don't not have blood on our hands. But this guy's a problem globally and to the US. So you're not getting him.
And if he was doing that maybe earlier in his career, I mean, they found him originally to get him out of, they had to get him out of Russia. They caught him in Thailand. Like, you don't think for many years of that, Russia had a dealing in how he was actually moving?
Oh
these
yeah,
things?
I'm not trying to.
But what
cap
I'm saying
for
is
it,
not
dude.
just a
I'm just saying,
businessman, that
like,
he
this is
wasn't equal opportunity. He was definitely taking a side at some point.
And if we're playing chess with Russia, which we always are.
We bought guns from him.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm sure.
We hired him.
No, there was a...
we
there
hired one of his companies that it was like a shell company, and we found out after the fact. But two of his shell companies, America bought guns from to help like our.
I don't think any of us.
Interests abroad.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us
So
is
it's
going to say America has no blood on their hands. We have plenty. But again, if we're playing chess geopolitically, which I think we always are, and Russia's one of our main opponents, for lack of a better word, you can't give this guy up. It's just like you got fleeced in a trade, and maybe that's why it bothers me as an Indian, because I don't like you losing a negotiation. But you got washed
And it's
in
like,
this negotiation.
I guess
then
maybe
what's
that's
worse?
it. It's like, washed for what? Are we becoming a victim of our own virtue signaling? Do we need to prove so much that we care about certain marginalized groups that we're willing to put our entire country at risk?
yeah.
Like, that's a concern.
Yeah.
Are we trying to show what good people we are so much that we're forgetting the risks that causes? And this guy, who knows what he's going to do? It's not like he's just going to retire and go to fucking Yekaterinburg and get a nice little villa and just chill.
Everybody knows who he is now, so it's like it's easier to track him and what he's doing.
Potentially, but Russia's
everybody
also going to
knows
protect him like they were protecting him before. That's
Yeah.
why it was so hard to get him.
Yeah, I don't think there's any like independent contractors in Russia. I think it all
now-
goes back to the top.
The other side of things is like, weren't we looking mad pussy that Brittney was locked up for
I don't
some
think- I
bullshit
think this
and
makes
locked
us
up
look-
for 9 months, and we knew that's like, yo, that penalty was way harsher than the crime. Like, we were looking a little pussy.
What are we supposed to do?
I know it's a tough situation. That's why this is a big deal.
What are we supposed to do? It's like, are we supposed to go to war because Brittney Griner took drugs to a foreign country?
Not go to war.
Do we
should
have
try to get her out?
Do we have other
I
prisoners?
Think we gave
do we
up
have
too much?
Do we have other leverage points with Russia?
I don't know.
There's no way we only have one prisoner.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Weird.
They wanted. They're not stupid. They wanted the most known prisoner.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say, "Yo, Nicolas Cage is out of prison for Brittney Griner."
Bro, why didn't we just give them Nicolas Cage?
Son,
that would have been
never.
so much easier.
Don't
That would have been
suggest
so much easier.
Son.
Mark, don't suggest that.
He's a treasure.
We should've.
Okay.
But we could just swap them.
Yeah. No, it's that shit is tricky.
I think
man.
they wanted to embarrass
Embarrass.
America. And that's what they did. So what makes you look more pussy than not getting Brittney Griner home is giving up the merchant of death who has caused way more problems for you and globally for Brittney Griner.
And have you seen the PR thing that this guy's on?
I saw a little bit of something on Grand Wizard's page. Go ahead.
But he's going through all these different he's
doing a
going
podcast
through,
run?
Yeah, he's doing a fucking
Yeah.
body, like he's dropping a special.
He's got a special coming
It's
out.
crazy. And but he's saying all this stuff is like America's lost their Christian values, and it's like he's trying to drive the wedge. It's really interesting. They're not dumb over there. Like now he's a political tool, and he's like the people in the middle of the country, they're totally fine, and I got along with them fine, and they were curious about Russia and they were interested. But the people in the cities on the coast, they're the ones that are they're buying all the propaganda about Russia, and it's like, maybe those Facebook ads. You know what I mean? Like maybe Russia was really doing some of them Facebook ads, like driving that division. So we're fighting each other here at home instead of actually focusing on them. Yeah, it's
There's a 60 Minutes piece that I think FA sent. It's from like 2012, and they did a little thing about how they locked him up in the sting operation. And you see this guy in jail. He's at like a table. He's got his fucking arms up, legs crossed, in shorts and boots. And I'm like, yo, this the baddest motherfucker. Just how little he cares about being in jail and how comfortable he looks. I'm not letting that guy out ever. I'm not letting you out ever. You're not even remotely affected being in prison. You're just like, You let that guy out, that's a problem. That's a bad motherfucker.
I'm sure he saw the camera. He's like,
Sure.
that mama look good. For
Sure.
me.
I still wouldn't be able to act that well. You know what I mean? Guy looks fine. No bruises, no nothing. They can't touch this guy up in prison.
yeah, I don't
Shake
know.
Brittany's head.
So, it's a tough
I
situation.
just wish we could have negotiated better to like get multiple people.
Yeah.
Or to trade for a lesser.
First round draft picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something.
Like Miles brought this up before. Like we had traded with Russia for like a Russian pilot and like a drug smuggler. April. Yeah, there was like a journalist that was there, an American journalist who got captured in Russia.
He's ex-Marine.
Oh, he's ex-Marine?
Yeah.
And so, he's over there. And then there was a Russian pilot that got captured in the U.S. for like drug smuggling. And they traded in April.
Damn. That was a better trade for us.
That's my point. So I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I have a feeling we're gonna get that Paul Whelan guy back. They just wanted this to be a trade that made us look stupid.
And cause more infighting, to your earlier point.
They want the worst guy who had a movie made after him to be traded for the girl that, I don't know,
hates America.
plays basketball and
quote,
quote
unquote,
unquote hates America. Like, that's a fucking incredible trade. That's how you kind of embarrass, I guess, America. Now, what Russia doesn't realize is we don't give a fuck about anything for more than 3 days. So like Russia's thinking, oh, we got them. This is gonna be a real thorn in their side. Brittney Griner, well, nobody will care about in 3 days. Unless she like dunks or does something in a basketball game, and then we'll just go and be like, see how boring basketball is when women play? Like, we'll just go right back to normal of not giving a fuck about the WNBA. The WNBA had their time to shine, and we'll go right back to not giving a fuck. The person I feel bad about is Paul Whelan. Because for a few weeks, it felt like the whole United States of America really was willing to do anything to get them back. And he might have got his hopes up. He might be talking to his family back home like, yo, they're trying to do it. It looks like it might be it. They're going to get you and Brittney. And now they get Brittney, and it's like, sayonara, see you later. You're going to be in this fucking jail for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not saying I don't feel bad for him, but at the same time, he had 4 passports. He was, I think, like,
He's a spy.
yeah, like pushed out of the fucking military. Like, hey, you know the risk of what you're doing. So it's like,
was he pushed out of the military?
yeah, I think it was like,
Or is that the story?
oh, that's
Yeah.
what.
Like, if I
well,
had
we
a
can
spy,
only go by what we see on paper.
My point is that if I'm a spy, if I'm going to be a good spy in another country, you can't look at my record and be like, 4-star general, incredible loyalty to the
That's
United
the
States
risk
of America.
of being a spy, though.
But the
Yeah,
risk
yeah,
of
like, that's
going
what
to
I'm
play
saying.
in Russia at that time was also
No, it wasn't high.
It
This
wasn't
was-
high?
No, when they locked her up, this was way before the war started.
Like there was tensions. It was like
Yeah,
3 or
they
4
knew
weeks.
the
Tensions,
war
yeah.
started years ago.
Bro, they've been playing there for years with no problem.
No, I'm pretty
She's
sure
been
it
playing
was-
there for
it
years
was-
with no
No.
problem.
Sorry, Miles, can you just check the timeline? I think it was like fairly shortly, but it was like pretty short, like quickly before the war.
Listen,
No,
you
we didn't know it was going to happen before.
But first
they
of all,
locked
we
it
don't
in.
know what we knew. They knew that they were going to do it no matter what. Because you
Russia
have to,
did, yeah,
exactly.
but not America.
But I have a feeling if Russia is going to plan a war, we're going to know that there might be a war happening.